Alright, hey you guys, this is TsubakiSwagg and I'm coming to you with my review of Tokyo Ghoul Route A, episode 8 Old Nines. And this episode was actually pretty freaking awesome. Like, it was kind of slow, and I'm kind of sad that there hasn't been a whole lot of action, but there was a whole lot of action in the manga at this point. But things are about to get real interesting, real interesting, especially if you already read the manga. If you don't, I'll try not to spoil anything. But this episode, pretty much this whole episode, Kaneki is still at Antiku, and he is talking to Yoshimura, and pretty much Yoshimura tells him his life story, and he talks about how um, this man, he, like, growing up and being out in the world as a ghoul, he was pretty much alone, and he would sometimes, like as ghouls do, he would have to kill to survive, and sometimes he would end up having to kill his own companions. And even though it made him stronger and he became really strong, he was eternally alone. So at that point in his life, he was confronted by a certain organization, which I want to say is an augury tree. And pretty much when he became part of the organization, he continued to be alone. He thought that maybe this organization would be some type of home for him, but it turned out to be no home. Like, there was no home that he found there. So he continued being alone, and every day he would go to a coffee shop, and this girl confronted him one day, and she was like, "You always sit in the same booth and you drink the same coffee every day." And he looked at her, and I believe it was love at first sight. And it turns out her name is Yukina, and they were sitting on a bench one day, and she was like, "You have a difficult time reading kanji, don't you?" And he really didn't respond. He was a man of few words, and Yukina she pretty much said that, "I'll tutor you." So she held out her hand, and he grasped her hand. And at this point, Yoshimura was like, this man, he had never reached out to anyone. He had never opened his heart to anyone, but he opened his heart to this woman. And at one point, he was killing it looked like he was killing ghouls. And she saw him. And at this point, I guess the ghouls, they didn't wear masks, because, I mean, I guess it really wasn't important to them back in the day, because Yoshimura is rather old. So she saw him, and she knew it was him, and he was willing to kill her because he thought that she was going to run away. And she grasped onto him. She hugged him tight, and she was like, "It must have been so hard being alone all these years, blah blah blah." And she accepted him. And then she got pregnant, and Yoshimura was like, there would have to be a miracle for this baby between a human and a ghoul to actually be able to live. And she was like, "I'm going to do that miracle," which means that she was willing, well, I want to say she was willing to eat another person to nourish her half ghoul baby. And the baby was born, and it was all happy-go-lucky for a little while. But after a while, the organization came after him. And at one point, they were running away, and somebody from the organization killed Yukina. They sliced her, and she looked at him and her baby, and Yoshimura, he was so angry, he lashed back out at them, and he had to leave his baby behind. At one point, he sat the baby down, and the baby grasped onto his finger. It was so sad, and he was crying, but he had to let her go. So he let the baby go. And if I haven't given enough hints already, if you don't already know who it is, you should know who it is by now. The one-eyed ghoul, you can just look at her hair, or her hair, and be able to tell who it is. Like, it looks just like her, but it's neither here nor there. So yeah, after that, Yoshimura, he was talking to Kaneki, and he was like, so that was how the one-eyed ghoul came to be. The little baby ghoul that was half ghoul and half human. So at that point, they also show, like, later on, they show like the episode progressing, the shop's really busy. We see a whole bunch of investigators like around the area, and at one point we see he was talking to not Nishiro. I believe, yeah, it's Nishiro. He was talking to him. He stopped him and he was like, "So what's going on? There's been a lot of commotion. Something seems different." And Nishiro was like, "I don't know. They haven't told me anything, but I'm kind of in a hurry, so I have to leave now." And he looks like he wasn't buying that for a minute. He looked rather angry, and then he went back about his business. And then also they show like after the shop was closing and they were like getting their things together and closing up shop. They finished cleaning and everything, and Yomo came in, and Yomo took Hanami and Toka away. And you know, that really bothered me because Toka used to be like one of the most I can't think of the word. She was one of the most like scary, or I wouldn't say scariest characters on the show, but she was one of the more revered ones. She was kind of scary, and she even beat Nishio to a pulp at one point. So, well, not necessarily to a pulp, but she whooped his butt and made him run away when he was trying to eat Kaneki. So, Toka used to be so scary, and now she can't. They don't even. I guess they don't even trust to have her fight against the CCG because they sent her and Hanami away with Yomo. So then after that, after they closed up the shop and everything, and Yoshimura had given some coffee to, I can't remember her name, and Roma, Shinohara, like they showed these, the CCG like swarming the building, well not necessarily swarming the building, but they were surrounding the area. And Shinohara went in there and had a coffee with Yoshimura, and Yoshimura pretty much told him about how it was pretty much his way of saying that ghouls can be just as safe as humans are. And he was like, beans, depending on the way you roast them and the water you use, and even just something simple as the way you pour the water onto the beans can change the way it tastes drastically. And it's pretty much like him insinuating that regardless, there are going to be evil ghouls, there are going to be good ghouls, there are going to be evil people, and there's going to be good people. It just depends on the way they were raised up, the way they're nurtured, and the way they go about things. So Shinohara was like, that was amazing. That was delicious coffee. And he told him thank you. Yoshimura said it was on the house, so he didn't have to pay for it, and Shinohara walked out. And then at the very end, we see two people. I can't remember his name, but he was a director that was over Mato when Mato was still alive, and they were pretty much saying that they wanted to launch the attack on Antiku. So yeah, it's about to turn up next episode. I'm so looking forward to seeing how things turn out. I want to see if they change anything or if anything is done differently from the show to, well, from the manga to the show. Because I know things changed slightly, but I just want to see how things turn out. So yeah, so as always, I would love to hear how you guys felt about this episode. How do you feel about the way things turn out? Who do you think the one-eyed ghoul is if you haven't already figured it out? So yeah, so as always, please remember to comment, thumbs up, and subscribe. It helps me a whole lot. And this is TsubakiSwagg saying adios.